Suggestions, concerns, and comments from the general public. Each speaker is allotted 5 minutes, and we ask that you clearly state your name and voting district for the board. For our students, please state your name and school of attendance. For all speakers, we ask that you keep your comments focused on the issues and that all speakers maintain a level of decorum and mutual respect for one another. We are in a different location tonight, so I'd like to inform all the speakers that our timer is located at the front center of the stage. Our first speaker is Robin Gilly, followed by Stephanie Maxwell.
Okay. I do want to say one thing before the speakers start. As the chair, maintaining order is my responsibility. There are several things I can do in response to disruptions. I will call for order and use the gavel to bring attention to my call for order. If disruptions continue, I may call for the removal of individuals or the individual causing the disruption. If necessary, I will call a recess of the meeting. If a recess is called, I ask the board members to remove themselves to the meeting room where we had closed session so that we can resume the meeting once order has been restored. Thank you.
There you go again for all of our constituents.
Ms. McGilly and Ms. Maxwell, you can come down to the second mic and wait your turn.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry. I'm extremely nervous because I'm not a public speaker. I was here last month, and the reason it brought me here was because...
Could you please, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Please state your name and your voting district.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries, thank you.
My name is Robin Gilly, and I have 2 children in the Spotsylvania County school system. They go to 2 different schools, but I believe I'm in the Salem district. I asked. So, but I don't want to say the schools because it's live.
You're fine. Thank you.
For privacy reasons, thank you. What I'm worried about is my oldest son, and I sort of explained this, he needs school like he needs medicine. He has a disability, and I told you this last time. And you're talking about a lot of positive things tonight, and I don't want to damper anything, but I have nothing good to say about his school. I do, and I see the principals here tonight, so thank you. I do want to thank you because that school has been a lifesaver to me the past 6 years. The past 2 years have been rough when they just completely stopped school, and I understand you have no control over that. What happened, I didn't expect it to happen, but it really traumatized my son. And I think we need to work on getting more special needs teachers, paras. That's especially important as we're, talking about different programs to do this and that. I'm not trying to be rude, but there are children that need this education, and they're losing valuable years of their lives because of we're all fighting over nothing. It's literally a political issue, and I'm not trying to stir anyone up. I think everyone needs to remain calm and be peaceful and just try to talk to you guys. Now, what does concern me is my other son, who is in kindergarten, so this is his first time in, a school setting, and he doesn't really understand with his brother. So they called me about an incident. The principal's here as well for that as well. I didn't have a chance to speak to them, but I did write directly to that teacher because he had a giant bruise on him. I know it was an accident. He told me what happened. And all they did was put a Band-Aid on it, and he told me the teacher did it. So I just asked for documentation, and I was nice about it. And I even said, it's no big deal, but I need documentation. I believe incident reports aren't just for special needs children. I don't know if I'm wrong or what. I just think we all need to stop fighting. I think I understand why everyone's so angry, but it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. I do want to read something, and I'll just close with that. And, well, first, about the religious thing, I do want to say, when you're in court, what do you swear on? A Bible. So you cannot take religion out of schools at all. That's, it's true. That goes all the way to our Supreme Court, Anyway, the last thing, I did not exactly write this. This is from a musician. Has no cuss words in it, I promise. But I'm just going to ask you first, have you ever heard of situational design? Okay. Step 1, train the people only to consume. Step 2, infiltrate adult with the news. Step 3, indoctrinate the children through the schools and the music and the apps on the phones that they use. Step 4, separate the right from the left. Step 5, separate the white from the black. Step 6, separate the rich from the poor. Use religion and equality to separate them more. Step 7, fabricate a problem made of lies. Step 8, put it on the news every night. Step 9, when people start to fight and divide, take control. This is called situational design. And that's what's happening in our country. So some of these things we're sort of talking about are, it is a beautiful day if you just ignore the issues. And it's sad. And I have written to the school twice about my younger son. And the older son, he's on an IP, so I know everything that
Ms.
goes
Gilly,
on with him.
forgive me for interrupting, but your time has expired.
All right, thank you for your time.
Recommend, Madam Chair, point of order, give her a few more seconds to wrap it up if she's got something else to say.
I think she said she was finished. Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Twigg. It's the
well,
board,
that
it's
was
the
a-
chair's decision. Did you have, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Stephanie Maxwell, followed by Francesca Ward.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Maxwell. My family and I live in the Livingston District, and we have 2 children who attend Spotsylvania County Schools. Members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I felt compelled to attend and share my comments as a mother, concerned citizen, and regular substitute teacher at my daughter's elementary school. I hope we can all agree that the greatest resource in our schools are our passionate and dedicated educators. The educators who have adapted and evolved to teach and inspire despite all of the obstacles that this pandemic has and continues to present. These teachers hold the keys to the future of each and every one of our children who attend Spotsylvania County Schools. They do so each and every day with a smile, enthusiasm for education, and a steadfast desire to provide the very best learning experience for all of our children. So I ask tonight, to the board, to the members of my community here and listening at home, what is being done to support these teachers? Our conversation should only be about focusing and supporting teachers and students at every level. Our schools are understaffed. Classroom sizes have increased due to the lack of teachers in our county and have thereby increased the workload of our teachers. There are not enough substitute teachers to cover classrooms. When teachers are absent and no subs are available, administrators are forced to make the difficult decision to pull paraprofessionals from their small groups to cover general education classrooms. These paraprofessionals are supposed to work with classroom teachers and support the learning of our most at-risk children. In their absence, classroom teachers are challenged again to meet the needs of our children. Our actions as parents and members of this community have consequences. When children come to school sick or with family members sick at home, I question this community's desire to support our teachers and our school. Members of the community and the school board, how are your actions tonight supporting our teachers and your child's education? Are your interactions positive and constructive? Do your interactions with the individuals responsible for educating your child genuinely show support and gratitude for the impact they make on your family? Simple acts of gratitude and, more importantly, respect give the educators the energy they need to continue to meet the challenging and changing demands of education during this pandemic. I see the faces of our educators every time I enter the building. I hear the magic they create in their classroom as they inspire the youngest members of our community to succeed. Each one of them is truly a superhero, but how are we thanking them and showing them our support? Members of the school board, community members here and at home, we are in danger of losing our most valuable resource that Spotsylvania County Schools offer each person here, our teachers. This pandemic will end, mask mandates and recommendations will disappear, but will our talented teachers still be here to guide our children? Thank you.
Francesca Ward, followed by Daniel Latham and Danielle McCarty.
My name is Francesca Ward, and I am a resident of the Berkeley District. Madam Chairwoman and members of the board, I come tonight as a resident of the Berkeley District and a mother of a child who attends a school in the Livingston District, along with the other approximately 650 children I teach each week. I am speaking tonight as a concerned educator, citizen, and mother. My concern is the health and safety of both our staff and, most importantly, our students of Spotsylvania County Public Schools. On the evening of September 13th, I tested positive for COVID-19 despite being fully vaccinated. The next day, my 3-year-old son began showing symptoms and would test positive himself several days later. Thankfully, my other child was able to isolate from the two of us with his father and continue his learning virtually while he remained in quarantine. After speaking with the doctor who treated me after testing positive, she made it clear there was a very real possibility I was exposed while teaching. Despite my vaccination, I became ill very quickly and experienced almost every symptom of the virus, losing almost 10 pounds the first week, loss of both taste and smell, exhaustion, constant fevers, chills, and most disturbingly, a deep, painful cough, all the while taking care of my son, who had also become ill, and typing lesson plans for my substitutes each evening. I share these personal details because this was my reality for almost 3 weeks, and I still have symptoms to this very day. While I was ill, I had a colleague in the hospital with COVID-19 as well, unable to breathe without assistance. This is becoming the reality for more and more educators in our county, both vaccinated and unvaccinated. I do not believe it is a coincidence that of my team of 6, of whom teach the entire population of our building, 4 of us have now contracted COVID-19. I respect that there are parents in our building who choose for their child or children not to wear a mask. Unfortunately, we have children coming to school sick and are with symptoms of COVID-19. We also have children coming into our building with active cases in their households, left unreported to our school and our nurse. I am concerned with the number of reported active cases in our school building and the quarantines of students and staff as a direct result. Our school is understaffed with a vacant grade level position unable to be filled despite our administration's best efforts. We have been operating with minimal custodial staff and bus drivers who have been driving double routes since the first day of school. Paraeducators have been pulled to cover classes when we do not have enough substitutes, which causes our children to miss their much needed additional academic support. Our staff is working tirelessly to support students in person and virtually, to work with students needing extra support, but I've heard many times this year from colleagues throughout the school division that this has been our most challenging year of teaching ever. The support once felt by the community as we face this pandemic has turned to division within our community and added stress to our educators. Hearing parents screaming at times, using profanity when speaking to their children's teacher and at board meetings, seeing board members speaking disrespectfully and out of turn and behaving with a lack of decorum in a televised public forum, of having community members post derogatory things about division employees on social media, to the point where people fear to attend school board meetings any longer at all, reflects on our school division, the people of our community, and will directly affect our ability to keep qualified educators in our area. In closing, I ask that you respectfully consider in the decisions you continue to make throughout the duration of this pandemic all the children of our county and their health, safety, and their well-being. I ask that you speak to the medical professionals taking care of COVID-19 pediatric and adult patients and listen to their expertise. I ask that you consider the safety and health of our school division employees and their families. We have to be united as a community to support our children and keep them safe. Our theme this year at my school is Together We Can. My husband and I moved to Spotsylvania County 15 years ago because of the people in this county, the values we knew would be instilled in our children, and the staff who became our second families in the 2 schools we had the privilege to work. Together, we can be unified for our children. Thank you for your time and consideration for my concerns this evening.
How's everybody doing? How is everybody doing? Daniel Latham, Berkeley District. Let's go ahead and do this as quick as we can. So here we are again with a crowd of parents trying to be heard by a group of people deaf to their calls. I have seen people come through here and appeal to science, data, facts, opinion, history, and God to try and get you to stop interfering in one of the most basic human rights, the right to personal autonomy and self-determination. I have watched as the majority of control of the board have leveraged that political power to forward ideological agendas with the inclusion of CRT and the imposition of mandate after mandate, just to refresh some people's memories to what's actually going on here. As of 10/2/21, per the CDC, age 0 to 17, there have been 499 deaths from COVID in the entire country during the entirety of the pandemic, out of 26.8 million infections in the same age group. During the same time frame, there were 1,010 deaths from pneumonia unrelated to COVID, almost a little over twice as many. For people that follow the science to suggest that COVID is a large or even more substantial threat than our children have faced in the past is just a ludicrous suggestion. On top of this, the VAERS system is reporting almost 15,000 dead from the COVID vaccine, with almost 600 of these cases belonging to the under 18 range. We know that this system is normally severely underreported, but for the sake of argument, let's take the numbers at face value. This would mean that more children in the under 18 age group have died from the vaccine than have died from COVID. And still, you go right along with forcing these shots on our children. You know what is a significant risk to our children, though? This school board, the superintendent, the divisive and authoritarian government in Richmond and D.C., the constant fear messaging from teachers and administrations about COVID and mask, the isolation and segregation of our students by the lines of masked versus unmasked, vaccinated versus unvaccinated, or in the case of CRT, by the color of their skin. So why is this being done? That is a fantastic question that many of us have been asking. We spent large sums of money to buy an ionization filter system for every school, further reducing the children's risk to something that was already a below average risk to our children. So, why is this being done? I guess it depends on who you ask as to what answer you will get. If you ask the spineless fascist worms on the school board, they will tell you they are just following orders. They have no agency in their decisions, and they have to do what Richmond and the idiot legal counsel tells them. You, specifically Aaron Gramp and Baron Braswell, have told me that you favor parents' choice but are not willing to stand up to Richmond. This leads me to believe that one of two things must be true. You are either liars or you have no backbone to take a principled stand. If you ask the very angry parents what's going on, you're going to hear a wide range of answers from a wide range of parents. Mostly, we are angry that you, our elected officials, would infringe on our most basic rights of choice. You hide behind just following the law, but ignore the very simple conflict outlined by the Constitution of Virginia. A parent has a fundamental right to make decisions concerning the upbringing, education, and care of the parent's child. That is a law too, and you don't get to just ignore them because it doesn't fit what you want to do. You should be opposing unconstitutional decree coming out of Richmond and the CDC, but instead you choose to abdicate responsibility and further erode our system and way of life. I am completely convinced at this point, with the precedent that you have set, that if Richmond decreed that you blatantly harm or vaccinate our children against our will, you would jump at the opportunity to try and force that on us. Baron, you voted at the last meeting that you would support mandatory vaccinations for all students. Now, to be fair, you said you voted this way out of spite because you did not approve of the behavior of the other board members. Who do you actually think you are, that that's how you're going to vote on something as important as forcibly injecting other people's children? You like to say that we're not the majority? I think you're mistaken in misrepresenting my position horribly if you believe that. I don't want to take any mitigation stand away from anybody. I want everybody, whether I agree with them or not, to be able to choose the course that they chart in their life. You guys are wanting to take that away. To the parents in the audience and watching at home, stop complying with these fascist tyrants. Stop complying with mandates and the erosion of your liberty. Stop complying with people that want you harmed and removed from civil society. If you value your freedom or the freedom of your children, stop complying with these idiotic dictates. History may not repeat, but it definitely rhymes. And these are the people that would cheer you as your family is dragged out of your home for the greater good.
Next speaker.
Danielle Mccarty, followed by Jen Peterson and Jeff McCarty.
I really didn't want to go after Daniel. That was a mic drop moment. Thank you so much. I'm Danielle McCarty from the Livingston District. And I'm tired of talking about masks, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. I think there's a greater danger looming that he just mentioned. I believe that the masks are just a litmus test to see who the obedient citizens are, and I've failed. But clearly, many of you have passed the test. You are willing to endure tyranny under the guise of safety. No matter how many studies show that masks don't prevent the spread of viruses, many of you won't change your minds because you don't believe in science. You believe in dogma and adherence to your political ideology. Let's pretend for a moment that Biden's policies can stop COVID. Then why haven't they done that? Why are things only getting worse? That's because the government cannot protect you from a virus without taking away your liberty. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. Look at what's happening in Australia right now. Are you aware of what's going on over there? People are being forcibly vaccinated. Their children are being taken away from them and being forcibly vaccinated. Do you think that can't happen in this country? It can, and that is where we are headed. So, when it comes to the vaccine, would you be willing to vaccinate your own 5-year-old child or grandchild? Or you just want ours? You just want to force it on other people? Would you be cheering it on if these become mandates for children? History is going to condemn the people that are for this, that are cheering this on. That's not a hyperbolic comparison with Nazi Germany. We're getting closer and closer every day. I think that most of us aren't opposed to vaccinating our children against extremely deadly viruses with vaccines that were tested for like 12 years. But we know that's not the case with this vaccine. We know people have died from it. Like he said, 15,000 reported to VAERS. We know that more children have died from the vaccine than from COVID. It scares the crap out of me. So much that I took my children out of school. Because I don't want to put them in danger. I'm not going to allow other people to make medical decisions for them. So when is it all going to end? When we all comply? Is that right? When we all put on our masks like good little citizens and we all roll up our sleeve and get the jab, then we can all go back to normal? Are you kidding me? If you believe that, you are fooling yourself. Each day we just keep marching closer and closer towards communism. Once again, I'm not being hyperbolic. Look at history. I can't be a party to that. And I will not allow misguided leftists to dictate medical decisions about my children. God entrusted them to me. I know what's best for them. Every parent should know what's best for their own children and be able to make these decisions for themselves, for their own children. I want every person on every spectrum of politics to be able to make that decision for their own children. And God also gave us an immune system. For me and my family, our immune systems worked 100% effective against COVID when we encountered it over a year ago. There is no concoction made by the big pharmaceutical companies that's going to top that. Guaranteed. We're all good. COVID isn't going anywhere. I'm tired of this conversation as if we could beat it. Like we just had enough compliance. We can make it go away. That is a fairy tale that is never going to happen. We are going to have to live with it. And I'm not willing to give up my freedom or the freedom of my children or my someday grandchildren in exchange for this fairy tale idea that we can beat this virus and eradicate COVID. It's not going to happen. And I believe, like Daniel, that mass compliance is the only way out of this. Thank you.
Jennifer Peterson, Salem District. Can you all hear me? Jennifer Peterson, Salem District. After listening to a speaker at the last meeting explain how if a child needs advanced COVID treatment, you would need to travel an hour away, I decided to look at the VDH COVID dashboard and found that per 100,000 residents, COVID hospitalizations in the prior 7 days were 1.1 for Spotsy and 0 for Fredericksburg. As of Friday, those numbers were 0.8 for Spotsy and 0.5 for Fredericksburg. So lack of treatment certainly isn't tied to lack of hospital beds. And looking at the CDC site, 499 pediatric deaths were attributed to COVID in 19 months. There were a total of 58,167 pediatric deaths for the same time period. The top 5 causes of pediatric deaths are 1 accidents, 2 homicides, 3 suicides, of which everyone who voted and supported for school closures last year are culpable in contributing to this number. 4 cancer and 5 flu and pneumonia. Yet we have not forced muzzled children for viruses, a 5th leading cause of pediatric deaths. Schools in this area are exceeding the governor's indoor student masking mandate. There's no outdoor masking mandate, and there are exceptions for exercise. Yet at least one school has canceled all foreseeable dances, while others are holding dances outside, selling limited tickets, and enforcing masking while students are within 6 feet of each other. However, outdoor sports events with unmasked fans still prevail, while indoor sports where masks are not required for players are okay. I had to contact a principal of one of my children's schools after my child was told to pull up her mask while during active exercise in a gym class, and she was trying to catch her breath. As a result, the gym teachers no longer tell students to pull up their masks, but they also don't tell them the exemption. School cafeterias are looking like prison visitation areas with plexiglass dividers running down the center of the tables. You wonder why students nationwide are fighting more in schools and are generally more out of control. Put children in a prison-like environment, force mask them, effectively removing seeing others as humans, and put responsibility on them after a year of no responsibility for assignment turn-in and endless redos in an attempt to stifle the true number of failing students, and there's your answer. On 10/2, the New York Post published U.S. mask guidance for kids is the strictest in the world, quotes a Stanford University professor stating, quote, kids need to see faces. Seeing faces is beneficial to watch people's mouths, to learn to speak, and to read and understand emotions. Masks have substantial costs to children, end quote. In the landmark case, Tinker v. Des Moines Independent Community School District in 1969, the Supreme Court ruled that students' constitutional rights do not end at the schoolroom doors. Washington v. Glucksberg states that parents have a fundamental right to make decisions concerning their children or the care of their children under the 14th Amendment Due Process Clause. And Meyer v. Nebraska ruled that, quote, a child is not the mere creature of the state. Those who nurture him and direct his destiny have the right, coupled with the high duty, to recognize and prepare him for additional obligations, end quote. Just last August, a $200 million lawsuit was filed in the Nevada District Court over the governor's in-school mask mandate and the Clark County School District's enforcement of that mandate. Defendants listed are the governor, the AG, and the school district, who are being civilly sued both professionally and personally. The 6 offenses of the suit make any immunity nullified. The plaintiffs state, quote, the defendants seek to curb plaintiffs' civil rights and liberties by ordering draconian measures and engaging in the intentional infliction of emotional distress on our children, end quote. The suit defines the defendant's actions as grossly negligent, willful misconduct, and in bad faith. The 6 violations are 1, the 9th Amendment under 42 U.S.C. subsection 1983 and 1988, 2, the 14th Amendment as a violation of privileges and immunity under 42 U.S.C. subsection 1983 and 1988. 3, the 14th Amendment as a violation of due process under 42 subsection 1983 and 1988. 4, intentional infliction of emotional distress. 5, the 5th and the 14th Amendments under equal protection. And 6, negligence. 42 U.S.C. subsection 1983 titled Civil Action for Deprivation of Rights states, any violations of rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution shall be liable to the injured party. And 42 U.S.C. subsection 1988 titled Proceedings and Vindication of Civil Rights state, all U.S. persons shall have their civil rights protected and for their vindication shall be exercised and enforced in conformity with U.S. laws. When the laws are inconsistent with the Constitution prevails. I am astounded by the entitlement of pro-maskers who overwhelmingly speak to anecdotal evidence and find it appropriate to violate my children's rights, while pro-choice are not demanding others to remove their mask. Yet entitlement and emotions reign while facts and constitutional rights are dismissed. This goes against our founding principles and gives a chilling foreshadowing of the direction we are headed in. An American lawyer who served as an AG under Truman and later as a Supreme Court associate, Thomas Clark, states, quote, nothing can destroy a government more quickly than its failure to observe its own laws, or worse, disregard of the character of its own existence, end quote. Thank you.
Jeff McCarty, followed by David Van Allen and Wendy Carver.
Good evening. My name is Jeff McCarty. I'm from the Livingston District. I don't have a lot to say. I just have a few things to say. This is my first time attending a meeting, so I'll try to keep it brief. Just like it was just 2 weeks to slow the spread, and then it was just a month or so stay home. The kids are going to stay out of school just till the end of the year, and then we'll figure it out, and we'll be good to go next year. It's just wear a mask now, and then we're fine. No, it's just get a shot, and then you'll be fine. No, it's just get 2 masks, and then you'll be fine. No, it's get 2 shots, and then you can take the mask off. No, it's get 2 shots and wear a mask. And then it's get 3 shots and wear a mask. And it's just one teacher we've already had come up here wearing 2 masks, admittedly fully vaccinated, and it just did absolutely nothing. We've shown that these mandates are not effective. It's just that all 7 of you stood up and pledged allegiance to that flag and the country for which it stands, with liberty for all parents to make decisions for all of their children. It's just 4 of you standing in the way of that liberty, and it just takes 1 of you to actually stand up for it and give parents the liberty that they are promised under our Constitution.
My name is David Van Allen. I live in the Berkeley District. And tonight I want to address the socialists, Democrats and the Rhino on the school board. And I want to ask you the following questions. What do you hate about this country? And the things that make this country the greatest on earth? What do you want to turn this country into another failed socialist experiment? What do you hate so much about it? Is it that our founding fathers created one of the greatest documents ever written, our U.S. Constitution, and that it affirms that our rights come from God, not from government? Or is it that the country has provided the greatest means for people to turn their dreams into reality, giving opportunities and freedoms that are nowhere else found on this earth? Opportunities and freedoms, by the way, that allow you to have the positions you have today? Or do you hate this country because it was created more inventions, innovations, and businesses than any other? Or because this country has liberated millions of people from tyranny and oppression? This country has survived and overcame 2 wars with Great Britain, the Civil War, 2 world wars, a Great Depression, the riots and protests of the 1960s, 4 years of Jimmy Carter, 8 years of Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. So we will survive and overcome the efforts of traitor Joe Biden and the other socialists in D.C. as well as any efforts by this board to push a socialist agenda. I promise you, any socialist agenda will be defeated because freedom has and always will win. Patriotic Americans have two things on our side that cannot be defeated: God and the truth. I'm not sure if any of you have ever been to a socialist or communist country. I have. I've seen socialist utopia up close, and it's not equality and prosperity. It's just death and misery, but all for a few of the power elite. I've seen the victims of tyranny, the dead, the disfigured, maimed, and tortured. That's why I helped defeat it when I was in the military, and why I will defeat it today in this country, for my country and for my grandchildren. Because the oath I took in the military never came with an expiration date. So remember, you work for us. You answer to us, because all political power comes from us, we the people. And we will not stand for our children to be forced to wear a mask, forced to get vaccinated with something we have no idea what the long-term effects are. And we also will not tolerate anything that teaches that a person's skin color determines if they're a racist or not, or anything teaching our children that this country's histories, its values, and its founding principles are evil and racist. Tyranny is not an American value and will not be tolerated, especially when it comes to our children and grandchildren. So with that said, I just want to stress that what I have said here tonight is not a threat, but I guarantee you it is a promise. Thank you.
Wendy Carver, followed by Sandra Henry and Mindy Lapp.
All right, Wendy Carver, Livingston District. Tonight I want to talk about bullying and why it never seems to be addressed in the Spotsylvania County school system. For years I've heard parents and students talk about a bullying problem in schools, sometimes so bad that parents have been forced to withdraw the child to preserve their mental health and get their life back. Recently, the reason it seems to continue with no resolution has become more obvious. Last month, the school board heard from many people, but I would like to focus in particular on the child speakers. The school board, at many meetings, has repeatedly said they would like to hear from the students, and I believe that's a genuine request, that you really would like to hear from the students. One student in particular spoke about being bullied and the suicidal thoughts she experienced from that bullying over the past year. Many of us who witnessed her public comments were moved and sympathetic to what she had been through. How shocking then that some Spotsylvania County teachers went onto social media while she was speaking and proceeded to make nasty comments about this child and make fun of her. About a week later, September 18th, Chairwoman Dawn Shelley went onto social media and proceeded to mock a fellow school board member, Lisa Phelps. Now, I think as adults, we probably all had a coworker we did not care for, one we would not choose to socialize with. We can all understand that not everyone gets along. However, most of us are mature enough to realize that bullying a coworker on social media would be a serious mistake that would have only negative consequences. Yet, on September 18th, Chairwoman Shelley went online and did exactly that. This is bullying. Her statements, Spotsylvania friends, you don't want our schools to go to blank. Make sure the cat lady and her buddy don't get elected. That is bullying. There are as yet no consequences for the board chair or her statements. Now, Erin Gramp sits next to Lisa Phelps at every meeting, and she has been wearing cat masks. Now, with this statement, it's pretty obvious that that's also a bullying attempt. In fact, the audience at home cannot see. Last meeting, there was needling comments that were going on the entire time. So you can only see what the camera chooses to focus on, but since we're in the audience, we can see whatever we need to on stage. And the entire meeting last time, Erin Gramp was making comments, what were obviously nasty needling comments, to Lisa Phelps. She's very careful to do this while the camera is focused elsewhere. A private company would never tolerate employees creating such an abusive working environment, yet the Spotsylvania County School Board, and by implication, Spotsylvania County school system, seem to operate by the philosophy of people in power can do whatever they like, that rules are for others, and if you aren't in their little club, you don't matter. Related to this, I would also like to take a moment to speak about my FOIA from last month. I did finally get it, by the way, 17 days later, just in case you were wondering. The Spotsylvania School Board charges exorbitant fees to citizens engaging in their legal right to oversee what exactly the public officials are doing. State law requires only actual costs be charged, and Spotsylvania County further restricts those charges to only charging for the time of the lowest paid employee that can do the work. FOIA requests that can be completed in Spotsylvania, if they can be completed quickly, can be charged no more than $5. In contrast, the Spotsylvania County School Board has someone making $120,000 a year to do basic keyword database searches and has a secretary that's pulling down $60,000 a year to do redactions at a speed that makes snails look like speed racers. When questioned, citizens are told that these are nominal charges. These charges have more than doubled in the last year, apparently since Chairwoman Shelley took over the board. Oh, and nearly 2 years ago, Robbie Abusmal put forth a motion to provide county phones to school board employees, just like what the county provides to the Board of Supervisors. This would streamline citizen oversight through FOIA requests. It was voted down by the majority bloc. They don't want you to know what you're up to. They aren't conducting their business on county email where citizens can see what they're up to. They're hiding it. They will charge ridiculous fees. They will avoid public records laws. You can never see behind the curtain if they have their way. Is it any wonder parents attempting to address bullying issues in the schools seem to get nowhere? Nothing gets resolved. And now we're starting to see why. The people in power are the bullies. Thank you. Woo!
A lot of people covered a lot of things that I wanted to talk about, but I also do want to thank that teacher that was wearing black for confirming that masks don't work, the vaccines don't work, and injecting unknown substance in our bodies. We do have the Nuremberg Code. Do you guys remember why that exists? Because evil experiments on human beings, Nazi Germany. You know what? Those Nazis, they just followed orders too. We have rights worldwide to reject any experiment. These masks are an experiment. There is no peer study reviewed showing that they work. There's lots of studies showing how they're making people sick and causing children depressions and other issues. My son, he has an IEP for speech. Since COVID and going to school with the masks, his speech has declined. I can't understand him anymore because your faces are covered when he goes to school. I can see some of you don't even care that you're breaking huge laws. Do you realize that this is crimes against humanity? Think about it. Everybody has one shot in life to do the right thing. Please do the right thing. If masks work, why aren't they working? If the vaccines work, why aren't they working? You don't even know what's in them. They're not even FDA approved. The ones we have are not approved. It's a word game. You give it to my kid, this is not a threat. If you force it on my kids, I'm an American and I'm a huge mother bear. That's all I gotta say. Leave our children alone, remove the masks, or show me the pure studies that they work. Please, I can't find one anywhere. Show me the pure studies that masks work and they do not have long-term effects on our children. Aaron Critt will roll in your eyes. I want to see the studies. Thank you. If you can't provide them, then guess what? Lose the masks. We are not going to deal with your tyrannical ideology, the death cult.
Next speaker.
Lapp, Ms. Lapp, followed by Rusty Miller, and let's go Brandon.
those are people are not here, Dr. Martin. Are there other names?
Rusty Miller. Mike Orloff, followed by Anthony LaFaro and Matt Strickland.
This on? Mike Orloff, Lees Hill. First off, thanks, board members, for allowing us to speak. I don't have any kids in the school board. My kids are grown, but I drive to work every morning. I see little kids out there on the corner with their masks on, and it pains me. It pains me so much where I'm going to stop what I'm doing and come here every month or every other week and tell you how I feel and get in line with the other parents because what's happening is wrong. But at first, my first public statement, I want to thank Sheriff Harris and his team because I know they're constitutional sheriffs and deputies, so that means they support and they defend we the people. Yeah. So that means they're on our side. So I normally would bring like some big signs and have some memes, but I'm just going to read them. Just because I went to your website last night and I said I had to have my comments in by 10 o'clock, but then I guess you don't really follow those rules. So here you go. All right. If we're in such a severe pandemic, then why are we firing, our health professionals and our first responders if we're in such a pandemic? There's question one. Second, and going back to the fear, pharma funds the media funds your fears fund the disease, your disease funds pharma, so I ask, quit being scared, take off the masks, because you're all looking ridiculous. And if everyone wants to be a board member and put up the signs all over Spotsylvania, and then they all get left there for like a year, and then they get, it's just just becomes trash. You're going to take this because parents are not happy. We're upset. Things are not right, and we know it. Get rid of the politics. So here's my last one. I ask that you all realize that you're all elected officials. You are accountable to your constituents who got you on that stage. I ask that you listen, and if you don't listen, the people behind me will be on the stage the next time. Thank you very much.
Holla.
Go ahead, please continue. Mr. LaFaro. Thank you.
I think it's ironic. Anthony LaFaro, Chancellor District. Yeah, after they were laughing at me for walking with a cane. Like I've never dealt with that before in my life. So here are people complaining about bullying, and that's the way they behave. And earlier, names were called to speak that weren't. One of them was Rusty Miller, Miss Graham's boyfriend. So they got a big kick out of putting his name on there a week after posting that he had a history of battling addiction. So here you have people complaining about bullying, and what are they doing? They're acting like bullies. I do think...
Madam Chair,
please
point
do
of
not
order.
interrupt a speaker is speaking. You can move your sign, you can put it up later, but not while he's speaking.
I do think Ms. Shelley's comment was inappropriate, even if it was on her personal page. But how does that excuse Mr. Twigg telling board members to shut up when suggesting to use data, or that they're stupid for suggesting to use data? How does that excuse Mr. Abusmal's actions toward Ms. Gramp interrupting her directly, knowing that she has trouble late at night due to traumatic brain injury she suffered in the past after going through a coma, and then later on making a snarky remark about how it's too late for her? How does that excuse Mrs. Phelps having apparently turned a Facebook page. There was a Facebook page that she ran, a PTO page that she was one of the admins or moderators for, that became another page that constantly bashed teachers. I mean, we're just supposed to believe you had no part to do with that, and that right around the same time that the page name changed and you created a new PTO page to replace the old one that you turned into Spotsylvania Parents for Education, that right around the same time you started going to other PTA pages and telling them they should go to this new page that was created, that also shared on made synoptic posts to your campaign back when you first ran. But that's not bullying, just trashing teachers anonymously and blocking them if they try to defend themselves, right? That's not bullying at all. So yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. You know, I'm tired of hearing about the mask and vaccine stuff that's been going on for months. It should be settled by this point. In a month, the county administrator is going to introduce his budget to the Board of Supervisors. You've heard tonight from parents, we're down staff. We need more staff. We've got bus drivers doubled up. We've got serious problems with resources, and 3 members of this board are consistently prodding people to play games with this mask and vaccine stuff. And don't tell me you're not, because you made a big deal about how there weren't public comments at that meeting, the August 23rd meeting it was. Well, I FOIA'd it. None of you ever requested to have public comments added that meeting when you requested the meeting. None of you. I FOIA'd all your emails to the chair, none. So basically, you staged the whole thing to create a thing. And then Mr. Abusmal steps into the audience and interrupts with the police to the point where they have to ask him not to. There's aberrant behavior of this board and unethical behavior of members of this board. I want to thank, as a parent of 2 children that are amongst the 89% that were not opted out of wearing masks when it was available, to the majority, those that are acting ethically. And as a veteran who thinks that that matters, for doing the right thing. And to the 3 of you that are causing division and lying and encouraging bullying, you should be ashamed of yourselves. And for any of you to call yourselves Christians when you behave like that, BS. You don't know what the word means. Our Lord and Savior would not approve of your behavior.
I'm sorry, I forgot. I wanted to present this one each for the
Ma'am,
board members.
You can hold on to it, and then we can give it to our board clerk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that you?
That's me, yes. Matt Strickland, followed by Jim Jatras.
How you guys doing? I'm here to just bring up an issue that happened on September 30th. I'm going to bring it up here because I'm not getting any phone calls back from HR. I'm not getting any phone calls back from the Chancellor High School principals or assistant principals. I have a daughter that goes to Chancellor High School, and she wears a mask because she's afraid of getting bullied. I've got 4 kids, and I told all of them if they don't want to wear a mask, I'll fight for them and I'll make sure that they don't wear a mask in school. But I've got 2 high schoolers that I also told, I'm not going to force you not to wear a mask because I know high school is already difficult for teenagers, even pre-COVID. So if if you want to avoid conflict and avoid getting bullied by teachers and students alike, then I'm not going to make you wear a mask. So I leave that decision on them. My daughter, she decided to wear one to avoid conflict and to avoid possibly any kind of retribution from teachers. And that's in part thanks to the school board members here wearing a mask. But anyway, so she was in class, and this is September 30th, so about 2 weeks ago. She brought her mask down a couple times from her face, and she had a substitute teacher that day. And the teacher told her to put her mask back up, and she said that she couldn't breathe because she was congested, so she was just trying to remedy that. And the substitute teacher, who was a black male, told my teacher, no, you're just doing that because you're privileged. And she said, no, actually, I'm doing it because I have allergies and I can't breathe. And he said, that's something somebody with privilege would say. And the entire class was laughing at that comment that the teacher made. So she texted my wife and I, and we immediately went to the school. And I asked to speak to the principal, Ms. Crawford, who you guys gave some kind of award to today, which I think is hilarious. And Ms. Crawford wouldn't even come out of her office to speak to me. Mr. Gebhardt, who's one of the assistant principals, spoke to me and told him what happened. So he said that he would investigate, and I told him, I asked for one simple request. I said, can you please go to the substitute teacher's class, ask him if he said it. If he did say it, then I would expect him to pull him from the class right then, because I would expect that the entire faculty, as well as all students and all parents, would not want anybody who would say any kind of comment with any kind of racial connotation to teach a class for 1 second. I said, go ask him if he said that. If he says yes, I would expect you to pull him out. If he says no, then I'll wait for your investigation. I think that's a fair request. But they wouldn't even do that for me. They said, we'll investigate, we'll get back to you. I said, after being there for an hour, I finally said, okay, I expect a call tomorrow, because everybody here knows if the roles were reversed and it was a racial connotation the other way, it would have been dealt with that very second. I never got a call back from Mr. Gebhardt. I called the school myself twice, left messages, still didn't get a call back. Mr. Gebhardt finally called my wife back and told him that the matter was forwarded on to HR, Spotsylvania County Public Schools HR, and that they would be completing the investigation and calling us back. It's 2 weeks later, still no call back. Have no idea what's going on with that incident. And while I was there, I was only at the school for about an hour. And there was 2 fights in the school within that 1 hour. I saw multiple boys walking around with pants hanging down past their ass. I saw female students walking around with no more than a tube top or sports bra or whatever with the coat that's wide open. You guys are not enforcing the dress code. You guys have absolutely lost control of your schools. I asked the administration right there in the office, I said, what is going on out here? You guys have had 2 fights in 1 hour. The resource officer, she was obviously tired of getting up and out of her desk every 5 seconds. And the administration told me, they said, there's nothing we can do. If we try to do something, we're ridiculed by the parents, and we're told that we're targeting their children. And if we don't do something, we hear from parents like yourself, so we can't win. And that tells me that you guys have absolutely lost control of your schools, even beyond any of these COVID mandates and regulations. So why Dr. Baker and Ms. Crawford was honored with anything today, I have no idea, because neither one of you deserve it by any means. So I'm bringing this to the public forum so everybody knows what happened on September 30th. I still have no answer from it. And Ms. Daniels, you're my school board member, so I expect an answer from it. In the next school board meeting, I'll be here to let everybody know what came of that investigation, because I have no answer as of right now.
Dr. Martin, could you call the next speaker, please?
Jim Jatras.
Thank you. My name is Jim Jatras. It rhymes with mattress, but it's not spelled that way. I'm in Berkeley District. As you can see, I'm an old guy, so I don't have kids in the schools right now. My kids are all grown up. I've only been in the county for about 5 months, so I'm speaking as a concerned citizen. I spent most of my life in Northern Virginia working at the State Department and later at the U.S. Senate. Did a lot of work in foreign affairs, so I know a lot of people who grew up in communist countries and then moved to this country seeking freedom. And a lot of them tell you, I'm getting a very queasy feeling of familiarity about this place. When you see a country that rips down its principles, denigrates its history, tears down statues, elevates criminal behavior. This is a revolution that is occurring. This is how countries are destroyed. And over what's been happening in this country the last couple of years, I said, I don't want to live in Northern Virginia anymore. I want to get myself south of the Rappahannock, which is what I did. Then I began to feel maybe I didn't go far enough south, that maybe I need to go all the way down to Florida. But, I was very dismayed to find out that what I thought I was leaving behind in Northern Virginia is kind of a battleground here in this county and even in this school board. Changing the name on an elementary school, what's that all about? I said, wasn't the first thing I said to myself, something's not right here. And I guess when it comes down to the question of when you have people in positions of authority in Washington and in Richmond who are, in my opinion, trying to destroy this country and destroy this society. At what point do people at the grassroots, the people at the local level, people at a county school board, say, no, we will not comply? And that's the question I want to ask. I remember a few years ago, many of the counties in this Commonwealth declared themselves Second Amendment sanctuary counties. I don't believe Spotsylvania was among them, by the way. I hope I'm wrong about that, but that was my recollection. And so I want to know, and this is a serious question, as far as the mask thing, Jennifer talked about how inconsistent all of this is. I couldn't even tell you what exactly is the mask mandate here right now that's being applied in this county. So let's go with something simple. If at some point either Richmond or Washington tells this county, your kids must get vaxxed to come into the schools, is there anybody on this board who will take the position, no, we will not comply? Can anybody hold their hand up and say, I will take the position, no, we will not comply? Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the question too. Is I hope you'll stick by that. I believe 3 of you. I'm not sure about the 4th one, especially since and that relates to this. We talked about this sign that they said we could hold up here about this. This is what the one lady was talking about with harassment with respect to one of the yeah.
Hey, camera, please, Madam Chair, point of order. Please put the camera on the gentleman.
Yeah,
Thank you.
This is public, so this is something people ought to see. So, I hope the point is clear that the line has to be drawn somewhere here, and I hope you all are willing to do it. And for those who are not willing to do it, or maybe are not telling the truth about it, I hope that the people in the electorate remember that in a month from now. Thank you.
Madam Chair, that's all the speakers that signed up this evening.
Okay, thank you. There are still a number of people in the audience. Is there anyone in the audience who cares to speak? Ma'am, with the hat, yes.
My name's Jessica Rohrabacher from the Salem District, and I'll keep it simple. I just have 2 questions that I do expect answered. It is a part of your job to answer to us. September 29th, the National School Board Association sent out a letter that they believe immediate assistance is required to protect our students, school board members, and educators who are subjected to acts of violence affecting interstate commerce due to threats. And let's see what that words were used as in domestic terrorist, that the Patriot Act in regards to us should be applied. And I want to know if you are in agreement with the National School Board Association. Would you please answer?
Madam Chair, point of order. The public comment is
if you do not answer now, I will wait after. I will wait after.
I'm sorry.
I'm speaking to the chair.
This is not, Mr. Braswell, thank you. This, as a reminder, this is not a question and answer session.
Can I have my time reset, please?
As this is not a question and answer session, you can email us, you can talk to us after the meeting, but this is not
I can wait until your
question.
comments. I'll wait here. I'll wait here and wait.
Thank you. This is not a question and answer session. You can continue with your comments.
So you're refusing to answer. Okay. I will still ask the second question, even though you refuse to answer, to the people. I want to know if you have filed or received or plan on filing to receive a grant from Project SAFE. Okay? This is the grant, the Biden issued a memorandum for a safe return to in-person school back in August. I want to know if you have or plan on receiving this grant, because to be eligible for this grant, the LEAs, you guys, have to, the very first thing is promoting vaccinations, consistent to correct mask use, physical distancing, screening, testing, and promptly identifying cases, clusters, and outbreaks, ventilation, hand washing, contract tracing in combination with isolation and quarantining. And it goes on. I want to know if this is why you have rejected proof, data, actual facts, because you have to go by these CDC guidelines and not actual facts and data in order to receive this grant? Or have you received other grants with the same wording? Because that would make sense why you deny the actual science, because it's about the money. It's never been about the kids. It's about the money. And if you did, you're in violation that they actually put in the grant where this violates the federal law. So even if you do all this, you're in violation of the grant, and they put it in there. You know, you still have time to turn this around. Get back on the right side of history, because you are on the wrong side of history, and you are on the wrong side of God. Regarding like the school board, you wanting to use police and FBI for upset parents, look what happened tonight. Your supporter came down, initiated conflict, and the officer reprimanded the other person. We all witnessed that. Is that how it's going to be? Is that how you want it to be? Yeah, if you're not with us, you're against us. You're supposed to be for us. I'm done.
Sir?
Good evening. My name is Carlos Moore. I'm from the Chancellor District. I retired in 2019 after serving in this county for 30 years, 36 total. I came back to the middle school to help out, even though there is a pandemic. And I look at this situation tonight and some of the other meetings that I've attended and spoke in, and there's a lot of pain going on. There's a lot of pain in society. There's a lot of pain in this world right now. To me, there seems to be some type of demonic presence in the minds and hearts of our people. There's a disease that's running rampant. I call that disease stupidity, because what we're looking at is a situation when we are uninformed about what is going on. We make rude and brash decisions. Had the United States taken care of this situation when it came over in Washington State and not blamed one country, but accepted the fact that there were more people involved, had we done the proper procedures to quarantine, to contact trace, to mask in the very beginning, we would not be in this situation. But here we are, because we could blame them. But here we are, we're going to stay here until we, as the people, I hear people saying, we the people. Today we celebrate Indigenous American Day. No, the indigenous people, because they are the original people of this country. That's part of the problem. We are divided because we can't unite because we choose not to. We choose not to. If we stand up in the name of love, I hear these Christians talking. I'm a Christian too. I'm not religious, but I will die for what I believe in. But it says, as I've repeated many times before, love thy neighbor, not fight thy neighbor. And I see people ready to fight. All we have to do is carry this thing through just for a little while longer, just for a little while longer, and then we can reach that freedom that we want for everybody. That's all we have to do. Come to agreement. Sit down at the table, fellowship, but not leave with anger and despising one another and hatred because we have differences. I don't understand it. I pray every day before I go to school. I pray for my kids. And I tell my kids that I'm in there, I said, hey, let me talk to you about it. I understand. It's hard to wear a mask for a little kid. But little kids are resilient. They will overcome. All they have to know is that, are the adults with us or are the adults dividing us? And I see a lot of division. I see a lot of division. Yes, choice. That's the greatest thing about mankind. We have the choice. That's what God's gift to us, the right to choose. And we have to choose with intelligence, not with anger, period. I was an EMT, firefighter, 3.5 years. I had to put my life on the line for total strangers. I've lip-locked a total stranger to try and save his life. And I would do the same thing again right now. If one of these people who may hate me fell down, I'd try to save his life. It wouldn't matter. But we the people, as a people, have to come together. Stop all this bickering. They do want the kids to be safe. Every single one of them, even though I may not agree with every one of them, but I think all of them do. Stop trying to point a finger at somebody calling names out because you dislike or disagree with them. Stand up, man up, woman up, so we can come together and get this thing together. Otherwise, I heard a lady on TV because she watched Fox News all the time. Oh, we're ready for a civil war. We don't need a civil war in this country. We had one. Why would we want to go back there? I pray for all y'all my brothers and sisters, regardless of what your spice is, where you're from, what you believe in. And so we got to come together. Stop all this fighting about this. We still want these kids to be safe. Thank you.
How do you adjust this? You know what? I'm just gonna... Okay, there we go. Okay. Hi. I'm Carla Millsap. You probably remember me, Shelly. Yeah, I know you do. But anyways, do I have to say my county or something?
You can state your school.
Do I have to?
Please. It's in the
They know me,
direction-
right?
It's in the directions.
I don't have to. Do I have to?
Students, we are told, in the directions, it says, please state your school. You could vote, you could state your voting district if you...
Livingston District.
That works. Thank
That's
you.
me.
That works.
Yeah. I don't know what he was saying. I'm sorry. But I was not planning on speaking tonight, actually. I was just going to come in here and be respectful, listen to everyone's opinions, until I heard, like, oh my, this should not be a problem. All of us should not be coming in here to speak our, like, truth and arguing, like, about everything. Y'all should just be able to listen to us, and there shouldn't be, like, aggressing, like, you know, right, I know. It's so dumb. This needs to stop immediately, honestly. I had so much to say, and it just kind of drawn to a blank now, but I just want this to end. There should not be. This is so dumb, honestly. Please just figure y'all stuff out. Honestly, I don't really know what to say. It's been said already. Y'all know what y'all need to fix. Oh, do you want me to read it? Dawn Abon Shelley. Is that you? Oh, okay. Spotsylvania friends, if you don't want our schools to go to, bad word, make sure the cat lady and her buddy don't get elected. Different. You know what you need to fix. Huh? What about it? Fairfax County? What about Fairfax County? Come here.
We have
Domestic
one speaker.
terrorists.
Thank you.
What? Oh, I'm good. That's all I needed to really say. Something about Fairfax calling domestic terrorists, or parents domestic terrorists, yeah. Huh? Fox News? Yeah. But y'all know what you need to fix. I don't really need to speak anymore, but yeah, thank you. I think I broke your microphone.
You didn't break it. We'll take care of it.
Okay, cool.
Next speaker. Yes, ma'am.
Winninatsu Kason, Livingston District. Hijakishina Hikanagina Wina, Winninatsuga Hinagirina. Greetings to everyone. My name is Reinatsu Lam Kason. My family and I live off Brock Road in the Livingston District. I have 5 children that attended Spotsylvania County schools, and I also teach at Chancellor Middle. I am from the Ho-Chunk and Schaghticoke tribal nations, an enrolled member. I'd like to acknowledge that we reside on the ancestral homelands of the Manahoac, Monacan, and Potawatomi people. While Virginia is home to 7 federally recognized tribes and 4 state-recognized tribes, there are many indigenous people whose tribal homelands lie outside of Virginia who choose the Commonwealth as their home. So often indigenous people are thought to be extinct or irrelevant, but we continue to thrive and prosper today. False narratives and invisibility have harmful long-term impacts. Indigenous people have and continue to make significant contributions within Virginia and Spotsylvania County. It is important for the Indigenous students, staff, and community members to be considered in the conversation on equity in education. I respectfully request that the school board members support and ensure that our curriculum resources and learning expectations provide a more accurate representation of Indigenous peoples. There are many resources and conflicting information out there that it is difficult for staff and teachers without training or cultural knowledge to discern what is accurate and authentic. It is important for staff and teachers to be aware of the cultural relationship many Native peoples have with public schools. It is imperative that our children see themselves accurately represented within our curriculum, resources, and classrooms. I encourage you to reach out to local tribes for partnerships and learn about Virginia's Indigenous people. I urge you to seek professional development opportunities for our county staff. Many teachers are unaware of the intergenerational trauma that is associated with government-funded schools, in addition to many culturally driven learning styles and knowledge systems. The last Indian residential school closed in 1996. This year, after an unmarked mass grave of 215 children was found at a residential school in Canada, the call was finally heard to begin searching all Indigenous residential schools. Since May of this year, 6,509 children as young as 3 have been found in unmarked graves on school grounds across the U.S. and Canada. This is not something widely reported, but our Indigenous communities grieve. My grandparents and my stepfather are residential school survivors. This is a weight many tribal children carry with them into our school buildings. Invisibility and erasure remain profound barriers facing Native individuals, families, and communities. These barriers are perpetuated by K-12 public education systems and negatively impact both Native and non-Native students by continuing to further invisibility and false narratives about Native peoples past and present. The failure of K-12 education systems to teach accurate history about Native people and about our contributions and issues in today's society promotes an inaccurate history of this country and erases the continued importance of tribal nations and peoples to the fabric of American society. In this current climate, no matter which side of the issues you stand, we must strive to do better for all of our students. I leave you with a quote from Schaghticoke tribal elder, anthropologist, and professor Trudy Lamb Richmond. Some call us American Indians, others call us Native Americans, but we were here long before this continent was renamed America. Therefore, we claim the right to determine what it means to be Indigenous, to maintain our identity, and to be respected for who we are. It is important to understand and respect that there are many ways of being human. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that cares to speak? Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Jamie Ashton. I'm in the Lee Hill District. I'd like to say happy Indigenous Day to everybody, and I'm glad that we can now recognize this. I just wanted to point out a couple observations. Our family was personally affected by COVID. It was kind of scary. The health department is not contact tracing the way it's supposed to. Neither of the two that were diagnosed in our household were ever contacted by the health department. Can we put the sign down on talking? Sorry, it's just a distraction. None of us were reached out to, and a huge disconnect that we found was that the bus drivers were not notified. And after speaking to several bus drivers, the bus drivers aren't being notified when there's students that test positive or are in quarantine, and the parents are being notified when a bus driver has tested positive. I only found out that one of our bus drivers was by happen chance. So I think that's a huge gap if we're ever going to get ahead of this that we need to work on. I also think that we need to remember a lot of people mention speech impediments and that it's harder to hear with mask on and stuff. There are clear visor masks and the face shields. And I have a child who went through speech therapy. So I understand that component. Last year, things were different. Everybody wanted to go back to school. We wanted some sort of normalcy. And we had Wednesday deep cleanings, and I think that was a huge part that helped. And one of the ways we came up to going back to 5 days a week schooling was a preventive measure of masking. And I do believe if a organization employs more than 100 people, you are required to wear a mask. So I would like to point that out, that I believe school board members are employed by the school board, therefore they should be wearing a mask. I did notice that on the Republican sample ballot, it is encouraging people to vote no to the bond referendums. And I know this is in a question and answer kind of thing, but I wanted to point that out to those of you that are on that sample ballot. One of the bond referendums is for the schools, and bonds are cheaper to pay back than regular loans. So maybe if you guys could check into that, that would be great. One other observation is at some of their school board meetings, some groups of parents have been outside smoking and stuff like that. School board buildings and school buildings are tobacco free. So those of us that have asthma and such are sensitive to smoking and cigarettes and stuff. So I just wanted to point that out as a consideration. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Okay, she was walking up, and then I'll come to you guys.
No, she was. Thank you. Thank you. Hi. Catherine Gregorio Palmer. I currently reside in the Battlefield District. So lots was said tonight that I disagree with, but a lot of it's opinion, and I think opinion's been shared pretty freely, so I'm not going to dive into that. I do want to just a couple things that I heard that I wanted to comment on. The first thing I want to say is that this is the greatest country in the world, and it's great because of a lot of reasons, some of which were mentioned tonight. But somebody mentioned that when you take an oath, you place your hand on a Bible in the court. And I haven't spent a lot of time in court. I don't think I've been in one since I was on jury duty. But even back then, it was known to me that you don't actually need to place your hand on the Bible. You can place your hand on the book of your choice. And that is what makes this country great, in my opinion, that we have different faiths, we have different beliefs, but our structure works no matter what your faith or belief is. And so I believe in that structure, and not necessarily any given book that somebody chooses to put their hand on. And that is a choice that we get to make. And I just think it's one of the greatest things about this country. The other thing I wanted to address was some comments that the vaccine does not work. For the last, I think, 2 months or so, as this Delta variant was rising, one of our local hospital systems has frequently published the number of patients in the hospital being treated for COVID, not incidentally having COVID, but the people who have gone to the hospital for COVID. And they have broken that down since early September by vaccinated and unvaccinated. So quick review, September 9th, there were 7 people in their ICUs. 5 of them were on ventilators. Only 1 of those people was vaccinated, which means the rest were unvaccinated. September 13th, 9 ICU patients, 3 of them on ventilators, only 1 of those vaccinated. September 16th, 10 ICU patients, 3 people on ventilators, none of those people were vaccinated. So everybody in the ICU was unvaccinated. September 20th, 13 people in the ICU, 9 people on ventilators, none of them were vaccinated. September 23rd, 16 people in the ICU, 12 on ventilators, 2 of those people were vaccinated. September 27th, 14 people in the ICU, 7 of them on ventilators, none of them vaccinated. October 4th, 12 people in the ICU, 8 of them on ventilators, 1 of those people was vaccinated. And the most recent report was that 16 people in the ICU, 10 of them on ventilators, none of the people in the ICU were vaccinated. So I think it's, that's some local data that shows that the people who are getting very, very sick from this virus are at this point, generally speaking, unvaccinated. And I don't share that as a judgment. Everybody gets to choose what they put into their bodies. But it is some actual data that shows that, statistically speaking, you are more likely to become very ill and need intense hospitalization and perhaps ventilation support if you have not been vaccinated. And then also another comment that I heard about support beds available in this area. Spotsylvania Regional has been turning away emergency cases because they're so full. Mary Washington and Stafford hospitals have also been pretty much full for the past couple weeks. So it is a burden on the health system, and it is important to point out that none of our area hospitals have pediatric ICUs. They have beds for pediatric patients, but when your child gets that sick, you do need to go an hour north or an hour south. And I don't know if that's what the reference was to earlier, but I did want to point that out. Thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to speak.
How y'all doing? My name is Brad Jenner. I live in the Berkeley district, and I'm not here to criticize anyone on the board of the job they've done or the job they haven't done. I am simply here to state a few observations that I've noticed over the past year or so. So I've noticed that parents or families against the mandates, mask, vax, or others, that they and myself are simply asking for us to be able to choose what is best for us and our children, based on our beliefs, which are made up from information that we have read, gathered from doctors, universities, medical associations, etc., all accredited. Just because they don't fall in line with your beliefs, it does not mean they are not accredited. People on the other side of my own beliefs, which want to mask, get vaccinated, do not seem to care or even want to have the choice. They simply want to be told to do it and just expect everybody else to do the same. No matter what you do in life, you can never please everyone. I know everyone here can agree with me on that. However, I keep hearing that we are the minority. Is this because so many children are masked and seem to not care about it? I have spoken to many parents on all sides of the spectrum. A lot of parents have told me that they simply send their kid to school masked because they don't want to fight the school system. To me, that's a crazy idea. I understand that I don't want to be here. I don't want to fight the school system either. But at the same time, if they don't value that for some odd reason, then they should stand against it. But again, so if the choice was there, would you see more children unmasked? I don't know. Would it bother me if I did or not? No. I will applaud Berkeley Elementary. My daughter has been going to school since day one, mask-free. My understanding, she is the only one in the whole school that has not had to deal with any of the horrible things that I have heard about at some of these other schools. That being said, she has not gotten sick, she's not had COVID, she has not had to be quarantined, her class has not had to be quarantined like other classes and students in this school. I find that odd. If you want to argue that my child not having her mask on makes your child's mask not work, then I would ask you to apply some common sense first. If I do not put on my sunscreen, does yours not work? If I take my vitamins, do they not help me if you do not take yours? I understand that these analogies should not be compared to the virus. I am comparing them more statistics rather than the virus itself. I know vaccine mandates will be coming up soon, and I know I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but that is something that is near and dear to me right now in the world that I live in. So, I know if you want to go by statistics, that if you get this virus, you have less than 1% chance of death. I use that death because that's what we're being fear-mongered to get the vaccine. If you get the vaccine, you still have less than 1% chance of death. But there's a 100% chance that I will not die from the vaccine if I do not get it. The right to have a choice is simply the best answer for everyone. No one should be forced in either direction. Thank you for your time.
Hello, you know me, Marina Pushalski, Liz Hill. Last meeting, I gave you an 86-page document talking about science and law, exhibits. I don't know if you guys have time to read it, but this document has facts. I'm not standing over here just talking about cases and I got this information online, blah, blah. No. This information is from labs, national and international, virologists, toxicologists, the University of Florida, Brown University, CDC, FDA. I haven't get an answer. The mask doesn't work. If people want to use it, it's our choice. But I don't want to get sick. If they want to do it, it's their choice. That's okay. But I need answers. We present our sources, over 727 sources. I hope you guys had time to read it and give me an answer. I want to see your sources. Because again, in that document, CDC and FDA are present. Another thing, I sent an email regarding the MOU. I'm sorry, I appreciate that 6 of you replied to me. Thank you very much. Ms. Gramp, I'm sorry, I didn't get your reply, but I appreciate the rest of you. Mr. Braswell, you spoke with me. I appreciate it also. This is very discriminatory. I am Hispanic. I speak better Spanish than English. A lot of friends, a lot of people that I know, they do not speak English. This MOU is just in Spanish. I remember, Michelle, your email where you said, oh, you just have to press translate. When you press translate, it translates the main page. But when you go to the MOU or the draft or also the form that we have to fill out, it's in English. Please stop this and correct it. We are living totally aside the Hispanic community. You guys are not thinking on them. If they do not speak English, and we are talking about equity and whatever you guys call it, that's fine. Put it in Spanish. We have too many kids, too many parents that do not speak English. They need to know what we are talking about. I will appreciate you do that, or I'm gonna start doing my speech in Spanish, so every single Hispanic parent know what we're talking about here. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who cared to speak? There's a lady behind you and then the young lady in the front. Yes, you.
Good evening, guys. All right, can you hear me? Okay. My name's Christine Mish. I am the Salem District, and I am the chairman for Moms for Liberty of Spotsylvania County. Once again, I'm just here to kind of be the bridge, the advocate for some concerns that were brought to my attention from other parents. A couple of the things I was going to bring to your attention, it was already brought by somebody else, so I'm not going to take up that time. But there is one thing, I had quite a few concerned parents, floored with this. But back in September, on September 21st, there was a photograph of Spotsylvania County students with Confederate flags on them. I don't know the backstory, I'm just, the messenger. But this photo of these minor students was then taken and posted on the Fredericksburg Black Lives Matter website, which, again, I don't know the legalities of all that. I'm just relaying. With their photo and a description of how wrong it is for them to have it. Well, the next day on September 22nd, the president of Black Lives Matter went live on his page talking about that he had a personal conversation with the principal of Spotsylvania High School, and that said principal in this video disclosed the disciplinary actions of these students that had these flags. And then he listed these disciplinary actions live. He did admit to speaking to the principal about these students. He did say, I'm not going to disclose everything, but again, I have a lot of parents that are like, why are people giving out other children's information? But according to this gentleman doing his live, the kids, they got their suspension. They're required to take some sort of a counseling, equity counseling, in order to come back to school to learn how to respect everybody else. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. And then not only that, but their flags were confiscated. Now, I'm not arguing with the situation, the punishment, it's none of my business. But like I said, I have a lot of parents concerned as to why the principal is giving these statements to some other adult that, to my knowledge and their knowledge, doesn't even have a student in Spotsy High School, let alone none of those kids belong to that man. So why is he talking about them on social media? The parents that have come to me have requested that you look into this further and maybe provide a statement on what actually happened to clear up the confusion, because it upset quite a few people. So that's, aside from that, that's really all I have for you tonight. So, thank you.
Young lady in the front.
My name is Haley Searles, and I go to Cortland High School. I just want to say Happy Columbus Day, because I'm out of school, so I'm not complaining. Yes, it's Columbus Day. Yes, we know. We learn it in school. Today, I just want to talk about my experiences as a student. I went to Battlefield Middle School in previous years, and there has not been one renovation to that school but an additional hallway. That carpet smells of puke, and there's roof leaks, and the lunch tastes disgusting. Though that hasn't changed from elementary school to now. Let's talk about Cortland High School, Mr. Broswell's pride and joy. That got renovated, but there's still leaks in the roof. Why would y'all spend millions of dollars just to not fix the roof? That should come first. We get served disgusting lunch meals like prisoners, get gated in like we're in a cell. I didn't know this was a county jail. We get harassed by staff like they're wardens harassing the prisoners. Honestly, there's nothing too different. I would like to not be harassed and abused by the school system and get a quality education. Try living like us and not act like stuck-up higher beings and see what it's like. The last point I would like to make is that board members should be respectful to other board members, which I shouldn't have to say because y'all are adults. But some members need a reminder. Miss Shelley, as you said, I'm just going to read it from the source over here. Spotsylvania friends, if you don't want our schools to go to crap, I'm just filling in this blank because make sure the cat lady and her buddy don't get elected, which one of them's on the board and is a colleague. So I just think that's very disrespectful of you to say. And I got a gavel too. Roasting is adjourned.
Are there anybody else that cares to speak? Sir?
My name is Roy Searles in the Salem District. Aaron Gramp and Baron Broswell claim that their hands are tied on issues such as mask mandates because of state law. Gramp was concerned about lawsuits. Gramp asked the question, what are you willing to cut from the budget to cover the legal fees for a policy contrary to CDC guidelines? Gramp's question is easy to answer. There are so many ways to save money. Our school administration paid a lot of money in legal fees for the school attorney to come up with policy changes for public comment. These policy changes clearly infringe upon the First Amendment rights of parents. That money can be saved. I bet there are many more examples of our attorney milking the clock. The school division will face legal action from either side, regardless of the position taken by the school board. Why not take a stand? What is the point of having an elected school board member if you're unable to take a stand or input from constituents on these issues? Again, you're going to get sued either way. Just take a stand to represent your constituents. I do not appreciate Ms. Gramp advocating responsibility and blaming the state. This is what a politician does. Talk out of both ends and not take a position. In an email exchange that I got via a FOIA request, Ms. Gramp says the following in an email exchange with Mr. Daniel Latham. I completely understand your frustration and in encouraging parents to find an attorney to do a class action suit against the state. It would be a quick and easy answer to a divisive issue. A sitting school board member is asking a private citizen to sue the state instead of taking a stand on an issue. This is frustrating as a citizen, watching Ms. Gramp pass the buck instead of fighting for her constituents. At the Monday, March 8th, 2021 school board meeting, there was a discussion on returning to in-person learning. I'm talking about Aaron Gramp and Don Shelley coordinated how to present this so you could look like the hero because you had previously voted against returning kids to school. You wrote Don Shelley an email during the middle of the school board meeting about bringing up the motion. How do I know? I got a FOIA request and the response from Don Shelley's email, dated March 8th at 7:32 p.m. Look up the board docs on the website and you will see exactly what was presented at 7:32 p.m. However, when I requested that same date and time for Aaron Gramp's email, it wasn't in any of her emails that I got. Yet again, another FOIA mishap. And it wasn't, and I guarantee you, it was done intentionally. Ms. Gramp sent it to Don Shelley. It wasn't in my FOIA request from Aaron Gramp, but it was from Don Shelley. Gotcha. Aaron Gramp has been on the school board for 8 long years. That's $96,000 in taxpayer money for your salary. I think that you owe Spotsylvania County citizens a refund.
Are there any other speakers who any other people who care to speak? Sir.
Hello, can you hear me? Not yet? There we go. My name is Jason Bartlett. I'm in the Chancellor District. I have a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old son. And there's many people in our community that have left the public school system because of your decisions. We have retained. We're still in the Chancellor Elementary School, and we don't want to pull our kids out, but we will. I've been hearing about testing that might be done. That will be the last straw for us. If you test or mandate vaccines for our children, we will pull them out of public schools. We also haven't put our 4-year-old in the school because we don't want his first experience to be wearing a mask in a school environment. So That's all I have to say. Please don't vaccinate our children. Please don't force the masks. It's not required. The other teacher already proved the point. She had a mask on, was vaccinated in school, and got COVID. So why do my kids need to wear a mask? Thank you.
Are there any other, anyone else cares to speak? Okay. Oops, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Alicia Schwartzman, and I'm from the Livingston District. I just come to these meetings to see what I can get as far as information. Where's our school going? What are we doing? With me as a parent, I think it's my responsibility to make sure that my child gets to be a great civil person, to be able to be not just a leader, but a great human being in the future. And what kind of a world are we providing for them? So those are the questions that I always put forth as far as a parent. And who is he being led by as far as the school and the environment that this child is in? So number one, I wanted to say thank you. I know you have a hard job, and I really would not want your job. I really would not. So I thank you for that, number one. As far as what's going on with the pandemic, and I'm going to say pandemic in quotation marks, have we even ever asked ourselves, what is disease? Why are people getting sick? And everyone talks about this virus, you know, no different than during the Greek times where there were demons, you know, attacking people, and we're doing the exact same thing. So if we want to talk about disease and we really want health, then let's talk about health. Let's provide programs at the school, for example, when we could teach kids how to properly breathe. That is the very first thing that we do when we come to this world, is breathing. We leave this world with our last breath. So I am proposing, as both a student of life, a biochemist, and also a yoga teacher, yoga therapy, that we instill some kind of a program in the schools where we teach the kids how to properly breathe, how to move properly outdoors, how to ground, being on the ground, picking up electrons. We are light beings. We're not just a physical form. So a vaccine, a poison injected into us, is not going to do anything. Not if you're already poisoned. So if we want to talk about health, then let's bring programs to the school. For example, teach the kids how to grow their own vegetables. Teach them to eat proper food, because we know, even my son comes home from school and says, I'm not going to eat that CRAP, Mom. That's terrible. I'd rather make my own meat. So if we're going to feed kids for free, let's give them something good. Let's give them health. And let's provide an environment of not just a physical health, but an emotional place where they can roam freely like they're supposed to as kids. So in saying so, what I want to provide and say is, I would love to volunteer my services to come, and I can start at any school, along with a few of my yoga friends, to come and teach these school kids how to move yoga, meditation, and breathing, and then see where that goes, and allow them to learn about real health, not disease. I think we're done with that, aren't we? Let's teach them health. So, in closing, I just want to say, I volunteer my time to go into the schools and teach from elementary kids all the way up to high school, and teach these kids how to self-regulate and how to live a healthy life in mind, body, and spirit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close well, no, I'm not. Do we have any virtual speakers?
Madam Chair, we have the one public comment that was submitted, and
Okay.
I think you directed me to read that into the record.
Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Melissa Floyd, and I live in the Cortland District. I had planned on attending the meeting in person, but circumstances changed. First, I would like to say thank you to everyone that has been working tirelessly since the beginning of the school year. We've made it to the end of the first quarter with the majority of students still in the school buildings. This is a big success and couldn't have happened without teachers, staff, administrators, and parents taking on extra tasks daily and adding precautions wherever possible. Second, a huge thank you to transportation and all of the bus drivers working extra hours and routes and being so quick to adapt on a daily basis. I hope that we can get more support for the drivers so they don't have to do so many extra routes. Lastly, I would like to thank board members that have come prepared and have taken the time to learn the job requirements. Serving on a board is not an easy job, especially in this climate. I would ask that every board member know and follows Robert's Rules of Order, as I believe that is the agreed-on process for running our meetings. When expectations are set and clear, it is much easier to communicate with citizens. Public comment is a fundamental part of local government. Advertising it so everyone is aware ensures that every citizen has the opportunity to contribute. I hope that as a citizenry and a board, we can work together to support our students rather than a constant battle of grievances. Thank you for showing up. Let's all refocus on students' needs over parental policies. Sincerely, Melissa Floyd.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Okay, and we don't have any virtual comments. So with that, public comments are closed. Moving on to board member comments. I'll go Mr. Bousmont and then Ms. Graham.
Good evening, everyone. First, I just wanted to say that a speaker suggested or questioned how Christian somebody is. When my God died on the cross for me, never did he think that I will be living without sin for the rest of my life until I receive eternal life. As Christians, we are sinners who commit sin. We're not people of mistakes who make mistakes. So to my members of the board, to the public who I may have offended, I apologize from the bottom of my heart. That was never my intentions. But I can guarantee that I am, and please guys correct me if I'm wrong, the only member on the board that was born and raised in a socialist country. The only member on the board that migrated to America with his family because we were sick of the government telling us how to live our everyday lives. We came here for the freedoms, the very freedoms that are being stripped away in the name of safety, in the name of COVID. The CDC has now become its fourth branch of government. Who funds the CDC? Bloomberg Foundation, Bill Gates Foundation. How credible are these recommendations that we are receiving? As we're sitting out here tonight, let us not forget the thousands of federal employees that have to make the decision this week whether they're going to abide by the jab and bow down to tyranny and take the vaccine, or they're going to have to end their income that brings food to the table for their family. First, it started with the masks. Like one of the speakers said tonight, it was just a mask. It's just a jab. It's just your child's education. It's just a passport. It's just an ID. How far is this going to go? And to the speakers who think that I'm fighting for this for the simple reason of it a mask, no. I'm fighting about the concept behind it. We fled Lebanon, came here because we were scared of our government. The National School Board Association is now trying to threaten parents and label them as domestic terrorists because they are speaking their mind. I see it as just a cancer spreading in our schools. Finally, we were able to get over the Jim Crow days, segregation of schools. The other side, they freaked out that they saw us the human race get along no matter of our skin color, our skin tone. So what can we cause now to cause segregation in people? Because as long as people are segregated, people are weak. And we are so blinded, we want to believe whatever is thrown down at us. Since when is the role of a parent given by the government. And we want, like a speaker said tonight, we're so scared of our hospitals being just so scared as not having enough beds. Then why are healthcare, especially in New York, it's starting in New York, why are we firing all the healthcare workers because they want the right to choose? Since when is my body, my choice has become bad? We've been fighting for it for years now. Now that it's my body, my choice for a vaccine, what I want to put in my body, what I don't want to put in my body, it's all of a sudden bigoted. They don't care about people. Last time I checked, the vaccine is supposed to protect the person that takes it. Same thing with the masks. You're protecting people around you. Clearly that didn't hold the people back enough. People stood up. Now it's a vaccine. Vaccine's supposed to make you protect the people around you. Vaccine's not meant to stop the spread of COVID. And I pray, and I'll publicly say this, I pray that my fellow board members, when this unconstitutional mandate of vaccines that has been brought by the administration, whether it's federally or states, when it comes down to our schools, we don't hide behind the silly excuse that go speak to the General Assembly. We're elected. The governor is a nobody. I have rights granted to me by the Virginia Constitution that allows me to make decisions for my people. I'm not here to be a representative of the governor. I'm here to be a representative of the people. So I ask my fellow board members, when this vaccine mandate comes down on us, whether it's with children or whether it's with the staff and students, to stand against it, to not support it, and not hide behind the lame excuse that go argue with the governor. Why did you guys get elected if you want to blame everything on the governor? People are wasting their time coming to speaking to you. They want you to listen. They want you to open your ears. Because we see what's coming. Again, I'd like to say that I'm the only board member sitting on this board tonight that fled a socialist country and came to America for the freedoms it has to offer. Now, 20 years later, those freedoms are being stripped away. That's all.
Ms. Grant, then Ms. Phelps.
I wanted to start out on the brighter side, and that was just to congratulate the Spotsylvania Elementary School on a fantastic fall festival that they held on Saturday. There was over 500 attendees with over 300 kids present, and it was the biggest and most successful one that they've had. And it was such a great production by the elementary school's PTA, and of course Principal Bob McDonald and Jamie Sotzing and Faith Jarvis all had an amazing event. And then that evening, we were able to get everything cleaned up, and that was perfect. The night before, I did attend the Spotsylvania Homecoming Parade, and I also wanted to say that that was the best one ever, and I think that both events were just such a nice, fresh change to be able to feel, compared to last year, that we are turning the corner and the kids are starting to be able to experience the things that they missed last year. So I'm thankful for that. Moving on to the bond, we haven't really had a chance to discuss it since we presented it. We, of course, are not allowed to say, whether you should vote for or against it, just present some facts. And Supervisor Yakubowski did that the last meeting, so I want to take a chance to fill everybody on the school board side, from the educational side. Most, of course, of the bond is for the CIP, which is used to fund mainly, as the book demonstrates project by project, required improvements to our infrastructure. So improvements to our HVAC systems, parking lots, and other very high-ticket items, roof replacements. And all of these things have a certain lifespan or a warranty. So when it goes over warranty or over the lifespan, we're of course losing our investment as taxpayers. some things risk being out of code compliance. So these projects will be done whether the bond is approved or not. The advantage of doing it with bond funding is that, as a speaker mentioned earlier, is that it is the way that the county can borrow money at the lowest rate possible. So, as I said, if the bond isn't approved, the projects will still get done. Money will still get borrowed to do that. The only difference is you'll be paying a higher interest rate as an investor and have no say in it because you have no vote for it. So when it's done the other way, it doesn't have to be approved or put out there, which is why most localities fund things with bond funding, because it's fiscally responsible. It allows for public input and allows us to, of course, borrow money at the cheapest rate. The last thing I just wanted to remind people of, and I have before, and this kind of happens on a every 2-year cycle, has to do with an election cycle. But our school board meetings get more turmoil every time that comes up. And so I just wanted to remind people of one of my favorite historical documents to read, and that is James Madison's Federalist Paper number 10. And in that, he warned of emotional factions that are led by conflicting self-interest, which is, of course, a human nature for us to all have opinions. It's when those opinions drive us to act based on emotion instead of logic, and they conflict. And Madison warned that historically that was the biggest downfall to democracy. So I always like to read that, and obviously the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist responses are what paved the way for the creation of the greatest document ever written, our Constitution. So that, of course, paved the way for federalism, which created checks and balance systems so that no level of government could overpower another. So because of that, that is why localities don't have the right to overturn states, which don't have the right to overturn federal government. It's how the system was laid out, federalism and that whole design. So when you have a spare moment, the Federalist 10 is one of the best introductions to that, and I highly recommend reading it if you need some extra reading time. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Phelps.
I wanted to thank everyone for coming out here and sharing your real valid concerns, whether I am on board with it or not. I appreciate it. It was a little emotionally intense, like the prior school board members stated something about emotional, and our kids make us emotional. That's just what I've noticed, and I don't believe that it's every 2 years. I haven't had that experience so far. So, and I'm not going to sit up here and make any talk down at anybody for reading or not reading anything, or how other board of supervisors or any political punchlines. All I can say is I'm grateful for every single person that came out here, and I'm going to sit here and listen, and I'm going to continue to just listen and keep an open mind. And we're all human up here. We do, humans make mistakes. We're not perfect. That's okay too. But I am a little, well, I'll just leave it at that. What some speakers did say is the truth behind the scenes that's going on with this school board. And maybe you don't want to hear it. Maybe it's not fluffy and nice. But when you are a leader, you can't tell people to do as I say and not as I do. And I fall short in it, and we're all humans. And there's a certain amount of forgiveness that people have to have for other humans. but I also continue to sit up here and hear my school board members sitting here wearing different cat masks, you know, continually. So that's the truth, you know. It's kind of a little disheartening, but hey, if they don't want to, you know, walk the walk, there's nothing I can do. I can't control anyone else, and I'm okay with it. We can all just do the best we can up here, and I believe it that everyone is. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Mr. Twigg, then Mr. Braswell.
I, too, would especially like to thank each and every one of you that have come out this evening to share your thoughts, your concerns, and to some extent, your concerns over your freedoms in this great country. So appreciate your thoughts. I believe they're heard loud and clear by this board. Everybody has judgments and value systems by which they react, and they do vary, and unfortunately, yet you've pronounced to us loud and clear how that issues are and concerns are and remain prevalent, and for that I'm thankful because each of you do play a role. Not only a role, you are the people we're supposed to be serving, the parents and the taxpayers and the students. So thank you. And a special thanks to Miss Millsap and Miss Searles, both students that came out this evening for where you're boldly expressing your thoughts and your concerns for your schools, and appreciate your boldness and your willingness to share or to be a representation in your sharing of student issues and concerns. So thank you especially for that. And lastly, Madam Chair and Dr. Baker, I would ask that you please address that Mr. Strickland concern at Chancellor High and somehow resolve this thing soon. And I, for one, would like some feedback at the appropriate time. By that I mean in a matter of 1 or 2 days that Mr. Strickland's been addressed, his concerns have been heard, and he as a constituent is satisfied with the outcome. So please make it a point to address that and care for and prioritize our constituents. Again, I for one would be grateful for that feedback and for a quick resolution to that issue. Madam Chair, that's all I have at this point. Thank you very much.
Mr. Braswell, then Dr. Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few comments. First of all, I honor and respect all of the board members that have been elected to serve for their term. I've always demonstrated that respect for them, and the primary reason I respect them is because their citizens voted for them. And whether I agree with them on matters professionally or in sometimes personal, when we serve as a board, I've always demonstrated respect for them. And even if I disagreed with them, I respect their right to disagree. Mr. Abusmal and I have had some interesting conversations recently, and even though and sometimes when we've engaged in conversations we may disagree, we've always managed to separate ourselves in conversation by agreeing to disagree. And that's okay. That's an American thing to do. I don't expect him to wholesalely, or anyone on this board to wholesalely agree with my opinion. And I surely don't expect anyone on this board to wholesalely expect me to, the other way around. So differences of ideas is important. After all, we are in a representative democracy. And the voters will make a decision on our characterization of service. They will vote. And when they vote, we will honor their decision. My very first election, I lost by 29 votes. I lost. I conceded the election. And I was adamant that I would try again to have the opportunity to serve. So we all up here are subject to the voters, and no one ever gets 100% of the votes. It just doesn't happen. Even when you run unopposed, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck will get a few votes. So I say that to say that there's always going to be differences of opinion, and we have to make our best call on making decisions that we think are in the best interest of the school division and the students and parents that we serve. Sometimes they're not going to agree with your decision or your belief, but that's where our citizens will make the determination who will continue to serve or not, and I respect that. I also appreciate what Mr. Abusmo said about his personal experience. I have a personal experience as well. As the gentleman mentioned or questioned our love of country. I love this country. I served it. I served as a rifle platoon leader. I served as an anti-tank executive officer. I served as a rifle company commander, commandant of the United States Army Sniper School. I was an operations officer in an infantry battalion. So I love my country. I served it, even when at times this country didn't really love me. I just turned 60 years old, and I was born in Charleston, South Carolina in 1961, and we don't need to go back in history on that. We know that sometimes our country didn't treat me the same way they treated everyone else. But I still love this country, and I served it. And I deserve the right to have an opinion about matters just like you do. And so I've heard everyone's opinions, and I've often believed, and I know this to be true, that even when you disagree with someone, they may be telling you something, or you might hear something that they say that could be the key to the solution to the problem. After all, a broken clock is going to be right 2 times a day. So I listened to everyone. I listened to everyone that spoke, whether I agreed with them or not. I listened intently to what they were trying to tell me. And I listened to what my fellow board members are trying to say. And I hope that when I make a decision, that I'm doing it in the best interest of the school division. That's my desire. Some people may like it, some people may not. I remember when we were talking about going back to school for hybrid, I was on a Ted Schubel radio show, and I said, I painted myself in a pretty advantageous position. The teachers are pretty angry with me right now because I am supporting a hybrid plan where we would attend school and not do 100% virtual. And parents are pretty agitated with me because I'm not saying let's go back to school 5 days a week. So I've managed to proverbially tick everybody off, and I'll just use that word. So I must be in the right place. Sometimes you have to make a tough call, and I'm not afraid to make a tough call. And I also know that come November, the voters will evaluate me in my entirety, and they'll make a decision. And whatever that decision is, I'll honor and respect it. Madam Chair, that's my comments.
Thank you. Dr. Daniels.
Good evening, everyone. Is this loud enough? I hope maybe I need to move it up some. Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank everyone for their comments, for coming out here. I think it's important that, we're all heard. And so I'll just start off with my comments and I'll piggyback up for some of what Mr. Braswell discussed when it comes to representative democracy. We're elected officials. We were elected by you. And we were put in this position to vote on policies, laws, things that impact you. Those things that impact you, those are really important. Now, going back to the difference between direct democracy and representative direct democracy. Direct democracy is when you have a voice in the process in voting on laws and policies at every level of government. Like my colleague, Ms. Gramp said, you will have that opportunity on the bond issue. So that is direct democracy. So right now, we are the elected officials and we do vote on behalf of you. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think it's important that we are aware of that we are representatives. And I'll just go on to my comments now. There were a lot of issues that were brought up tonight. And it's a lot to count. So I'm going to do my best to try to discuss those that were important. All the issues were important, trust me. But I wanted to especially hit on the ones that we as a school board or we as a district need to answer for. Particularly, someone came out with the documentation of incidents, and I'm sure the district is handling that. But I just wonder, and we can talk about